Hey YouTube, it's Nick. Hello to all the new subscribers, and I wanted to first welcome you to the channel and thank you for joining in for these new paranormal videos in this reboot. So for those of you that don't know about what happened on Sunday, before I start with today's video, I just really quickly wanted to touch on it and extend a thank you to Shane Dawson, because on Sunday I was having a really rough day. I logged in and the first thing I see is a comment that did not make me feel very motivated about doing videos, and he instantly jumped in after I tweeted about it and commented on the video, said, "It's great to have you back," and it was on the cursed crying boy video. And as soon as he did that, I thanked him on Twitter and it just exploded. So I really just wanted to say thanks again to him for being such a sweetheart, and thanks to all of you guys that located me through that and decided to hit that subscribe button. Now into today's video. So as you can tell from the title, I am going to be doing a mini-series on the most dangerous methods of communication with spirits. And in today's video, we are going to touch on two of the most dangerous methods. Everybody covers Ouija boards first, so I've put that one on the back burner for now, and we are going to cover two different ways. So the first method that I wanted to discuss, there's a lot of mythology around, which is mirrors. It wasn't just a way to gussy yourself up, it is actually something that was used in ancient times to communicate with the dead. And ever since then, there's a lot of mythology that goes around mirrors and death. So mirrors were used in ancient times for scrying and gazing into not only the future, but into the past as well, which led into spirit communication. Along the lines of death and mirrors, if somebody dies, there are two separate pieces that go along with covering up mirrors. In the Jewish faith, you cover up the mirrors in order to kind of focus on one's self and the inner reflection of somebody's life. You aren't supposed to be vain during that time, so you're not supposed to think of anything other than that person that passed away. In other faith-based legends with mirrors, you cover them up in the event that somebody dies because you don't want their spirits to be taken in by the evil forces that they could see through that mirror, because mirrors are a portal. How would you use a mirror to communicate with a ghost? What methods are there in order to actually use something that is just a reflection of oneself in order to communicate with the dead? The way that you're supposed to do it is you are supposed to enter a darkly lit room, have just the mirror, yourself, and a candle. You gaze into the mirror, and eventually what happens is you are able to see spirits that want to communicate with you. The issue is not all of them are good. The method is actually called psychomantium, or it's also referred to in some ways as an apparition booth, because you're basically just sealing yourself in like a booth to communicate with just the dead. This method was basically developed by the ancient Greeks. What they would do is they would go to a temple that would worship Hades. They would participate in a bunch of precursors to it, one of which involved animal sacrifice. Then they would go into this room that would have a giant, basically pot, that was full of water, and they would use the reflection in the water in order to speak to the dead. So I've got my phone here, and I'm going to share with you some of the experiences that I was able to find in which the communication with the spirits didn't go as planned, or they met an entity that wasn't a spirit. One of the most famous spirits that people try to conjure is Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary is believed to be a malevolent spirit that was trapped in a mirror, and summoning her only works because you're communicating with a spirit through the mirror. You're summoning her through a portal, essentially, and giving her permission to enter your spiritual space, your home. Another big superstition that involves mirrors is to make sure that you cover it up during a lightning and thunderstorm. Water is a huge spiritual conductor, and especially during a lightning and thunderstorm, it boosts spiritual activity. So the best thing to do is to cover up your mirrors in your home because, again, they're viewed as portals, so leaving them open allows spirits to enter your home. So the creepiest account was one that involved a man going to bed and looking at his mirror, and in the mirror he saw a tall, cloaked figure that the hood was down, but he was wearing a Quaker hat. I guess the reason this one's so creepy is because I live in Pennsylvania. So the figure in the mirror looked directly at the man. So the figure offered the man the chance to come into the mirror and stay with him forever. The way that it would work is basically he would make a deal with him, and he would become the man's spirit guide, and in return he would get everything that he wanted materially. If he wanted to be a movie star, he'd be a movie star. Whatever he wanted, this spirit would grant. Obviously the man declined and got rid of the mirror. Another story, I'm going to read this one verbatim from here, is: the nightmares started when we moved into a house with mirrors covering the closet in the master bedroom. The mirrors were an open portal to other dimensions. I knew from Feng Shui that one should not have mirrors in the bedroom because it causes restless energy. I realize now that the mirrors did more than just increase the energy in the room. They let in evil spirits. We were renting, and because the mirrors were on folding doors in the closet, I could not work out how to cover them, and did not realize at the time how important it was that I do so. A year later, we moved into another house, the one we are at right now, where I'm writing. I hoped that the nightmares would stop. They did not. This time, while there were no mirrors in the bedroom, the idiots who designed the house did not put a door between the bedroom and the bathroom, just an open arch. Since we were renting, there wasn't much that I could do. Part of the large vanity mirror looked almost directly into the bedroom, and I ignored that part of my mind that told me it was not something important that I needed to worry about. Once I realized that the bathroom mirror was letting something in that had caused my nightmares, I had two choices: to cover up the mirror or put Bible verses on it, similarly to the way that we had to do in the prior home. And these stories just keep getting more and more intense. Another story where they tried to perform a divination, where there were 6 guests all around this mirror in a haunted location. They proceeded to try their luck with this mirror, and their reflections in the mirror appeared to change. Their faces looked older. The person then goes on to talk about how his features changed in the mirror into looking like somebody else entirely. Once the features finished changing, the image took on a mind of its own, looked at the other people in the room, and started to mouth something, but nobody really paid enough attention to see what the person was trying to say because they were too busy fleeing. There is another forum on here where people would post stories about their experiences with performing these mirror seances in a way. One of the people discussed how they had many haunted mirrors in their home, and the ghosts in the mirrors would ask to be released. Somebody immediately commented under that and said, "A spirit asking to be removed from an entrapment never means well. They may seem innocent and they may try to get your pity." And this happens in a lot of cases where, even with the Ouija board, whatever spirit or entity is talking to you is trying to gain your trust in order to get control. The more that you trust them, the more power that they have over you. They also go on to say the spirits are not of the deceased, they are demons, and that's why they've been imprisoned in the mirror. Makes me think a lot about the movie Constantine and the scene with the mirror above the bed. If you haven't seen that movie, it's definitely on par with some of these stories. Now, again, there are some cases where it's not always a malevolent spirit that's coming through, and again, you need to have protections in place before you do any sort of spirit communication. There's one story in here about a girl who lost her mother, and her eyes are a very brilliant green, she said, and her mother's eyes were a dark brown. And she was in the mirror doing her makeup, and when she looked down and looked back up, her eyes were brown. And she could have sworn that they were her mother's eyes. And it was almost a strange but calming feeling for her. In a weird way, it was like her mother saying, "I'm watching over you." One of the cases that you can definitely read about online, although the information is kind of mixed, because as soon as you type in Ed and Lorraine conjuring, you're going to get all of the pieces of video from the movies. Ed and Lorraine in their museum actually have a conjuring mirror, which is exactly what I'm talking about. They acquired this mirror that was used specifically for these types of situations where people would gaze into the mirror and try and get contact with the spirit world. And in this case, they contacted things that were not positive. And everything inside of Ed and Lorraine's museum is haunted and was personally investigated by them. So if you do get the chance, I would definitely say that that's something else that you should look up in order to better understand this. The biggest takeaway that I would say about mirror communication is to make sure that you are protecting yourself in whatever form of spirit communication you do. And using a mirror, it is just you. It is the reflection of you. It is you and whatever entity that you're communicating with. And it acts as a portal to let things through. And the last thing that you want is to open a portal inside of your house and let in spirits that are malevolent, because you never know what you're going to get, if it's going to be something benevolent or malevolent that's going to come through that mirror. The second form of spiritual communication that I wanted to talk to you guys about is auto-writing, also known as ghost writing or spiritual penmanship. There's a lot of different terms for it, but in essence, what you do is you take a piece of paper, a notepad, whatever that you're going to write with. You put a pen in your hand or a pencil, you put it down on the paper, you put yourself in pretty much a trance-like state, and you allow yourself to write. And in essence, what's happening is you are opening yourself up, allowing a spirit or entity to take control of you, even though it's just your hand or your arm. You're allowing something to take control of you in order to write out information. You're not always going to get something that's in your native language when you do this. You're not always going to get something that is related to you, like having a family member or something like that. The worst thing that you can do, either with the mirror communication, with this, or any sort of spiritual communication, is to say, is anything there? If you say that, you are opening yourself and the area around you into letting in whatever is there and giving them the power to communicate with you. Especially in this situation where you are allowing something to take control of your hand and write out something, you are essentially allowing yourself and leaving yourself open to possession. I read an article that basically said 50% of all possession cases that are reported to the Vatican involve some sort of spiritual communication, where somebody reached out and either did the Ouija board or did one of these methods, and it backfired horribly. So essentially what you're doing is you're allowing something into you and allowing it to produce something that you wouldn't normally produce. Whether it's not in your handwriting, not in your native language, whatever the case may be, you're allowing something in to answer questions that you may have. So when you're in this trance-like state, you think of questions that you have, or you say them out loud, or you allow others to say them to you, and you allow your body to just write out whatever is coming through. Now, there are a lot of cases where this went horribly wrong. I was reading an article online. Again, I do a lot of research for these videos. So I was reading an article online where somebody had mentioned that they allowed themselves to write out something, and it wasn't in a language that they can understand. And the issue was they didn't protect themselves in any way when they did this, and they allowed something malicious into them. And by allowing this thing into them, they suffered through not only poltergeist activity entering their home, they had things thrown at them, they had scratch marks appear on them. Like, it was awful. The case was insane. But they also couldn't control their hand at specific points. So like if they were online just searching things, their hand would click on something that they wouldn't normally do, or like they would lose time because of this. And again, when you open yourself up to something like this, you're opening yourself up to possession. I'm not saying there aren't safe ways of communicating with spirits. There are. Spirit boxes are a safe way. Pendulums can be a safe way as long as you use proper procedure when you're using a pendulum. Dowsing rods. There are a ton of things that don't allow spirit contact, where you're only using their energy to move or to communicate versus their energy into you and then communicating through that. Another danger that comes with auto writing isn't just a physical danger or a spiritual danger, but it is also finding out information that you may not want to know. During this time, spirits can communicate and write down anything. So you may find out things that are hurtful, painful, insulting. Another major thing to spiritual communication is you have to do it with all of the right intentions. If you are doing it to make fun, or if you're doing it to pry and poke at the spiritual world, those malicious intentions are felt, and it draws in malicious intentions from entities that want to prove to you that things are out there, and things can go very wrong if you don't protect yourself. There are a lot of videos, articles, and things like that out there which delve into these methods of communication and how to properly do them. But I myself, I live in a haunted house. I have enough issues with the paranormal. I don't want to deal with allowing entities that have any sort of negative or malicious intent into my house or into my life. Using any of these forms of spirit communication that we're talking about today can leave you vulnerable and more open and susceptible to things like this. One of the other things that was highly discussed in these, along with mindset, is how you allow yourself to feel during these communication times. If you are fearful and you allow yourself to express that, any situation where you're getting any sort of spiritual communication is kind of scary. Unless you are really excited about it, you're going to have that initial fear. And that fear feeds the energy to the spirit or to the entity and allows them to gain power. So the more fearful you are, the more energy they have and the more that they can do. I wanted to at least cover these two methods. I wanted to discuss a couple of the cases that I had heard about, some of the things that may or may not happen during a communication session if you use one of these strategies, and just at least let you know some of the dangers that go along with them. So again, this is going to be part of a series, so I'm going to cover a couple more, and I'm also going to cover the positive ways of communication, but these are some of the most dangerous ways that you can communicate with the spiritual world. In closing, I again wanted to thank all of you guys that are new subscribers, those of you that are subscribing after this video. I want to thank all of you that are liking and commenting and sharing these videos. I was a YouTube partner before all of this, and because of my lack of activity on my channel, I lost my YouTube partnership, and it is tough to rebound, and I appreciate Shane for motivating me and keeping me going through this, and I want to give him another huge thank you for it. YouTube has been an excellent outlet, especially during all of this COVID crisis, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Again, that comment section, I reply to every single comment I get, or at least I try to, especially with it being kind of slow right now. I will be completely open to suggestions that you guys have. If you would like to leave a suggestion down below of another type of video that you'd like to see from me, or if you'd like me to cover a specific type of spiritual communication or a specific location that you want me to cover, please feel free. Or if you want me to cover a specific cursed item. I really like looking into the information about the Warrens, so again, I love all of those kinds of stories. So please feel free to leave me any sort of comment down below and let me know what you are interested in seeing. I'm thinking that I'm going to be posting every single Wednesday, but if something arises and I'm going to be late one week, or if I'm going to be early, or if I'm going to post 2 videos in 1 week, I will definitely let you guys know. Part of me coming back is noticing that social media is a huge thing again. So I have been more active on my Twitter. I do have an Instagram, but I'm not that active. I will put all of my links down below, and feel free to hit me up on any of those. Thank you so much. Talk to you guys soon.